So you've probably clicked on this video for one of two reasons. Either you've bought an info product in the past, whether it's access to a paid community or a paid course or online content in some way, or you have considered paying for an online community or an online course. Maybe it worked out amazingly well for you, but there's been areas it didn't. But most likely you've clicked on this because you invested in it and you didn't get the results that you expected from it. Or you have just never invested in the course before, maybe just been a bit indecisive and procrastinated about it. I've been there as well. And I'm actually grateful that I've never invested in these courses, and I don't regret not investing in them, because I think the whole info product space is very interesting. I'm trying to sound as impartial about that as possible, because I know that there are lots of great info products or info communities out there, and I know there are a lot that are scams, or there are a lot that just aren't what they say on the tin, so to speak. So I really want to break down kind of my own opinion on info products, info courses, info communities, and then also where I think their benefits really lie. To begin with, I think we want to look at what info products or courses or communities are out there. So one of the first ones I ever came across probably was Iman Gadzhi's agency navigator and copy paste agency. Those were the kind of first ones I ever saw. Someone that I am a fan of, that I watch their content, and made an info product. And that was helping people start their own agencies and scale their own agencies, because he's done that himself. And I think it's no doubt that he has helped many, many people make 5, 6, 7 figures, maybe even 8 figures, through starting their own agencies and scaling their own agencies. But I also know that there's lots of people that I've spoken to personally that have said that the course, and especially that content, is a bit, generic and isn't very super specific, and they say it's long but doesn't necessarily provide the minor, more granular details that you need to actually properly start and scale. It just provides you with the kind of foundations, which maybe that comes down to the marketing of the course and how it's actually presented and portrayed to, presented to the audience and potential customers of that content. But overall, that's certainly, for me at least, the first kind of info product I came across, which was an online course. And I think going into the other realm of kind of the next step I've been a part of myself personally as well in a Discord community has been info product meets community. And this is where my opinion on info products and info communities lie. Because any time you are paying for knowledge, paying for the knowledge experience, the knowledge gaps you have that someone else doesn't, the experience, the failures, the lessons they've learned, I think that's definitely valuable. And that's obviously why many, many people that do invest in info products or info courses or communities do get value from that information. But I believe this comes down to the Pareto principle, which is the 80-20 rule. I think that for the most part, if 1,000 people invest in a $500 or $1,000 course, the minority of people, whether it's paid or not paid, will put the time and effort and the sweat equity into investing their time and effort and money into that course and scaling whatever the course or community teaches. And then there's the rest of them that will use that information, and the same way they're procrastinating through watching free online content like YouTube or anywhere else, they'll continue in the same cycle. They're in the same hamster wheel of information. And this is the same with many, many people. I mean, I've been in a community where we've had to, ban people because they have shared like a mega drive that is terabytes and terabytes of these paid courses and paid communities and this paid content and like free ebooks and all this sort of stuff in these folders, and these people put together. And it's further proof that there's a majority of people that are stuck in this hamster wheel of, they can literally have terabytes of info product content in the end that is worth potentially hundreds of millions, or maybe even just hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars. But these people are the type of people that, regardless of the information that, they watch or listen to or consume in any format, they don't want to act on, because it doesn't matter what information that they are given, they just don't have the push to actually act on any information they're given, or maybe they just haven't been, they haven't, the information hasn't been given to them in the way that it just clicks in their head. Now, I think part of the way information, and certainly with info products and info communities, part of the way it can click in your head is it being a certain type of, well, partly it being the way it's portrayed and the way it's being explained to you. For instance, I think there's even been a TED Talk, or many TED Talks probably about this, but the way information is explained and presented will change how effectively that information is taken in by, by observers. So if someone, for instance, tells you a story, you will take in the lessons learnt from that story more so than someone saying, don't do this, don't do that. If they tell you a story that leads to don't do this and don't do that, they will more than likely take in the information and take those lessons learned, because ultimately we need a story to be able to learn from it for most people in most cases. The other area that I think is the reason most people, people that actually act on these courses, the people that take the action and take the information they've learned, take the templates from these courses or whatever it might be, and act on what they've learned and put it into the world and start their own business or whatever the content might be, this comes down to the financial investment. Because certainly for me and certainly for many other people, I personally have never invested money into any online products or courses of any kind. Things have been sent my way. I've seen some free moments from some of these courses before, and things that have been downloaded and sent my way. But for the most part, I've never invested in any of these courses. And I think part of the reason that people do act on the information they get in courses is actually because of the financial investment and the fact that for most people, we are trading our time for money. And so we link, if we spend 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 on a course, that we compare that to, and we match that to how long it took us to earn that money, or what that money is worth to us. We'll compare it to how many meals we could buy, or how many films we could buy, or how much this, or how much we could do with it. What it relates to in any other form of value, the comparable value. And especially if you spend $1,000 on a course and you make $1,000 a month, then you know that this costs you a month of your time to earn. That's, for most people, still comparing their time to the amount of money they're providing. The money is tied to their time. So I think for the most people that take action on these courses and this info products, the money is probably 70% of why they're actually, or maybe even more, of why they're actually acting on this information, because they know that they've felt this investment financially, they've seen the financial hit, and they're acting on this information. But, I also know people that have invested tens of thousands in courses and they've not learned anything. Maybe that's probably because it wasn't much of a financial hit for them. Maybe if it wasn't going to, if you weren't going to have to scrape by on your meals and live in survival mode for the next 2 months, then maybe it won't be as much of a financial investment to you. If you've got 10K in your savings and you don't really mind spending 1,000 or 500 on a course, then maybe you won't act on that information as much as if you only had 1,000 in your savings and you spend all of your savings on it. It depends. It varies. It depends on the person as well. It's different with everybody. But I think the financial investment is a large part of it, as well as just the tendency for the type of person you are and whether or not you just feel this productive procrastination from investing in these things, whether it's free, whether it's paid, and whether or not you actually, act on the information. Because I think, coming to my opinion, from what I've learned, is that all the information you could possibly need for free online, especially on places like YouTube, it's where I've learned most of what I've learned, from book summaries to more about marketing, more about filmmaking and storytelling. Basically everything I know so far in life about business, about, starting a business, growing a business, about working with clients, client relations, about sales, about marketing, everything I know to this point, for the most part, has been boosted and helped by what I've learned for free on YouTube. Which just goes to show that I think it's not so much what you're investing in, but it's sometimes how it's packaged as well. And I've even watched a video actually from the Parker Wilbeck, which is the full-time filmmaker. He made Full-Time Filmmaker, a massive course. They've made millions and millions through that, and I'm sure that's helped many, many people as well. But also many, many people that may have just watched it and not done much with it. Same with many info products. But he was explaining how why it's worth the investment in a paid course versus just free online content. And he showed how, he's got his videos, but then he condenses 100 videos he's made for free on YouTube into an hour and a half of condensed, super packaged convenience of an hour and a half worth of course content. And that perspective as well, in terms of how the information is packaged, just as well as maybe the story behind how you are sold information. That's a large part of, I think, why, investing in a course can be good for certain people. So I don't think that just by proxy, info products or info courses in any way are bad. I think there's always in any industry going to be potential scams, potential like fake gurus of any kind. But I think generally content in a course or information within a course, it's ultimately value in some way. Someone that is a complete novice to an industry will find the information valuable. And then someone that's an expert might say this is a bit bland, this is a bit beginner. And then the kind of argument around that then just depends on how the information is packaged, how it's being presented and advertised as. Is it being presented as a beginner course? Is it being presented as an advanced course? And then is that being advertised correctly based on what the information actually is and what it's presented with? So many conversations there, but I think generally, in my opinion, there's bad products, there's good products, the same with any industry. But I think really where kind of info products are separate from another category is info communities. And I'm not saying this because, I've been part of one and semi-closely affiliated with one, but I think the difference between an info course or an info product and a community that is maybe surrounded by an info product, or one where you're just paying for a community, is because paying for a community is a bit like paying to go to a mastermind or paying to go to a networking event of any kind. You're paying to be able to get in the room with, whether it's online or in person, people that are either in a similar situation to you, so you get to see their perspective, or are able to be like mentors for you. They might not directly become your mentor, but people that can be a mentor type of figure. And this is why these kind of big networking events, networking communities, and these masterminds, I think, do provide more value in some cases than info products themselves, because with a mastermind event or with a networking community, whether it's online or in person or both, you have the natural human nature of kind of tribal instinct of humans. And you don't get that with an info product, because with an info product, it's all down to you. When you invest in a product or a course and you spend $500 or $1,000 on a course, it's your time, your effort, your money, and it's up to you whether you consume that information or not. Now, yes, you kind of have that to an extent with an info community, or with just a paid community in general, but I definitely think there is more of the societal kind of tribal expectation, kind of going back to human nature and the kind of ancestral tribal instincts we have in our, like, hardwired in our DNA. I think there is more expectation to perform or get results from a community once you join it, because naturally people conversate in the community, people start talking to each other, and you start networking with different people, and people will start talking about what they've been learning in the community. And this is why I think info products that have community aspects to them, either as part of it or not too much more, they probably do more and have more benefits for the customers of that info product than those that don't have communities. Because I think why communities work so well is for this very reason of the tribal nature and the kind of social aspect of a community. The same way that social groups are, so necessary for humans. It's we need to talk to other people. We need to conversate and socialize with other people. I think that's why communities and paid communities work so well, because you're paying to get in the room with other like-minded people. You're paying to get in the room with people that are ahead of you and where you've been, especially if they're the owners of the community, especially, and maybe bringing in other industry leaders, industry experts, so that you have this kind of paywalled information. But, you're getting the paywall information with other like-minded people and with other people that are where you want to be, maybe where you used to be if other people below you've joined you, or whatever it might be. But that's why I think my opinion is that, in my opinion, a community, for the most part, they tend to not be as kind of much of a gray area as info products themselves are, because quite rightfully so, anyone can make an info product about anything, whether they know the information or not. They could just be a messenger for the information they've learned off YouTube or whatever it might be. They don't even, with an info product, you don't have to, unfortunately, people don't have to prove they have the experience. Obviously, that, people that have experience, they sell courses much easier because they have the experience behind them. They can show what they've done. They can show testimonials, client results, reviews, proof, all of it, social proof and everything. But there are many people that haven't got the experience backing what they're selling, but they can still make money off of the course because people just invest in what they say they claim to know or have experience in. Whereas with a community, the product is the people, and you can't fake people. Like, people can lie, manipulate, and deceive, but the majority don't. Like, for the most part, it's hard to have hundreds of people, maybe even thousands of people, maybe even tens of thousands of people, all sticking up with one idea or one lie in that case. And for the most part, I think this is why communities are more successful, because there's the social element. There's the kind of bringing everyone together. Everyone is, without even thinking about it, kind of accountable for each other in the sense of oh, well, how have you been doing? What's your progress been like, and results and this and that? And I certainly think there are communities which may not be as valuable as other communities. Then there might be communities, and there's always been Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes with community elements to it. But that's normally been because of the products associated with the community. And I think the community element by itself, even without the founders of the community, they are the best they could possibly be. Because when you have a group of people together that are like-minded, they've all got the same, they've got similar ideas, they all share the same interests and hobbies and passions, they've all got the same goals for success or business success, career success, whatever it might be, regardless of the founders or whatever product the founders are trying to sell, a community as a whole is probably the best way any of this can work, and why, in my opinion, I think a community is going to be more successful than an info product itself, but also just because it's people. And when your product is about bringing people together and making a community out of it, regardless of what you're selling, but just bringing the people together, it's then impossible for it to not work and not be successful. Because you bring this group together, they're accountable for each other, they are ultimately relying on each other, to an extent they're relying on each other's success, and they're using each other as a network to be able to grow from. So, generally, I think, to end the spiel of info products and info communities, I think, like any industry, info products, there will be scams. You always need to watch out for scams. There will be people that say they have the experience when they don't. And there'll always be the case where people that should be making courses or communities that aren't, because they just don't believe in them, but they should. So you've always got both ends of the stick there, both extremes. But I think my opinion is that if you find an info product or an info course that is right for you, then great. And I wouldn't be so discouraged if something you have invested in didn't work out, because then it's a lesson learned, and you probably did learn something from it anyway. And obviously, if you were scammed from something, that's a lesson learned as well, to kind of trust your instinct when it comes to, testing out a product, looking for reviews and things like that. But generally, I think, in my opinion, I prefer to invest in a community, because just like any networking event or mastermind group of any kind, you're paying for the people. You're paying for the network and the group, and you can't fake people. You can't fake a group. You can't fake an entire network, regardless of the founders and the products they're trying to sell as well. A network of people is the network, and you can't change who they are. So, yeah, that's about it. Love to know your thoughts below. Leave a like if you enjoy the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.